Prior to the recent World Cup final match, I engaged in a discussion online with someone who claimed that South Africa deliberately slows down the game in every match, asserting that their forwards can't keep up with the pace of teams like the All Blacks. I promised to undertake an analysis of the stoppages in the final after the match, and I'm glad to share the outcome with you. In reviewing the final, I meticulously timed all the stoppages when Wayne Barnes called time off and categorized them. In total, the various stoppages amounted to 24 minutes and 21 seconds, with 8 minutes and 30 seconds in the first half and 15 minutes and 43 seconds in the second half. I then documented on a spreadsheet which of the two teams were responsible for each stoppage, adhering strictly to the rule that whoever were the initial cause of the stoppage would be allocated the time without bias. In 3 instances, I deemed it unfair to allocate time to either of the teams due to the specific circumstances. The first was a TMO review of the Sevilla knockout at the lineout, leading to the cancellation of Aaron Smith's try. Although both teams were at fault, New Zealand for the knock-on and South Africa for the penalty, I opted not to allocate the time to any of the teams. The second was in the 66th minute when New Zealand knocked on and some players continued to play on. While I could have allocated the time to New Zealand due to the knock-on, I refrained from doing so. The last instance involved injuries from both players from both teams before the dramatic final scrum. Let's now go through each of the stoppages in the final one by one. In the 2nd minute and 27 seconds, there was the first stoppage of the game when Bongi were injured and Frizzell received his yellow card. The category that I've allocated to is for the TMO that caused the stoppage, and the total stoppage time were 2 minutes 31 seconds. The 2 minutes 31 seconds are allocated to the All Blacks, given that the stoppage was caused by foul play by Frizzell. In the 3rd minute and 10 seconds, Bongi were leaving the field injured, so the category I allocated to is injury, and the total stoppage time were 30 seconds, and I allocated the 30 seconds to the All Blacks because the injury was caused by foul play by the All Blacks. In the 7 minutes and 24 seconds, there was South African medics on the field to treat Colby. He was injured in an attempt to take the high ball. The total stoppage time was 2 minutes 10 seconds, and I allocated it to the category injury. And at 2 minutes and 10 seconds, I allocated to the Springboks, given that it was one of the players that were injured. In the 11th minute and 47 seconds, there was feedback on Frizzell's yellow, which stays yellow, and the category was TMO, and the total stoppage time for Wayne Barnes to inform both teams were 33 seconds, and the 33 seconds are allocated to the All Blacks. In the 16th minute and 8 seconds, there was the Groot's injury. The New Zealand medics were on the field. Category for the stoppage is injury. The total stoppage time was 40 seconds, and I allocated the 40 seconds to the All Blacks, given that it was one of their players that were injured and caused the stoppage. In the 28th minutes and 24 seconds, there was Sam Kane's yellow card and the TMO review. The whole review took 1 minute 34 seconds, so the category I've allocated to is TMO review, and the 1 minute 34 seconds are allocated to the All Blacks, given that it was foul play by the captain. In the 33rd minute and 35 seconds, there was feedback on Kane's yellow card that is upgraded to red, so the category is the TMO. The total stoppage time for Wayne Barnes to give feedback to both teams were 40 seconds, and I allocated the 40 seconds to the All Blacks, given that the stoppage were caused by foul play from one of their team members. Those were all the stoppages in the first half, a total of 7 stoppages. In the second half, the first stoppage were in the 45th minutes and 29 seconds, when Kolisi received his yellow. It was a TMO review. The TMO review took 1 minute and 40 seconds, and because of the foul play by Kolisi, allocated the stoppage of 1 minute 40 seconds to the Springboks. In the 51 minutes and 6 seconds, there is feedback on Kolisi's yellow, which stays yellow. The category is TMO, and the total stoppage time for Wayne Barnes to give feedback to both teams is 29 seconds, and I allocated the 29 second stoppage time to the Springboks, given that the stoppage was due to foul play by the captain. In the 51 minutes and 47 seconds, the medics were on for Malherbe. He had a lame arm after the defence on the Springbok try line. The category for the stoppage is there for injury, and the total stoppage time were 1 minute which are allocated to the Springboks given that it was one of their players that were injured. So in the 45th minute and 28 seconds there was a knock-on by the All Blacks at the line-out, and the TMO review that disallowed Aaron Smith's try. So the stoppage were caught due to the TMO. The total stoppage time were 1 minute 48 seconds, and because both teams were at fault in this instance, the All Blacks for the knock-on and the Springboks for the penalty, I did not allocate the 1 minute and 48 seconds stoppage time to any of the teams. Then in the 55th minutes and 59 seconds, where there was the rip by Deon Fourie, and the linesman indicated that he was on his knees. So I allocated the category to the assistant referee for the assistant referee's intervention. The total stoppage times were 21 seconds, and I allocated the 21 seconds to the Springboks, given that it was a penalty because of Deon Fourie ripping the ball away while he's on his knees. And the 65th minutes and 4 seconds, the New Zealand and South African subs came on, and Kobe were treated after a run and his leg bandage. The total stoppage time were 2 minutes and 6 seconds, so the category is injury, and I allocated the total 2 minutes and 6 seconds to the Springboks, given that it's one of their team members that were injured. In the 65th minute and 43 seconds, there was some New Zealand substitution. Aaron Smith left the field. The total stoppage time were 37 seconds, and the category is substitutions, and I allocated a total stoppage time of 37 seconds to the All Blacks, given that it were their subs that were coming onto the field. In the 66th minute and 36 seconds, the players did not hear the whistle after an All Black knock-on. Some players played on for quite a while. Willie Leroux went over the All Black try line, but they were called back. And that whole period where there was a stoppage was 1 minute and 9 seconds. I've categorized this as other because I couldn't categorize it under any of the other categories. And in this instance, again, I did not allocate the time of 1 minute and 9 seconds to any of the teams, given that both were at fault. In the 17th minute and 11 seconds, there were further New Zealand subs. So the category is substitutions. The total stoppage time were 51 seconds for the substitutions to come onto the field and move to the set piece. The 51 seconds are allocated to the All Blacks because it was their substitutions that caused the stoppage. In the 1 minute and 28 seconds, Faf were going down at the line-out, tying his shoelaces. I could not allocate that to a specific category, so I allocated it to other reasons or other categories, and the total stoppage time were 18 seconds, and I allocated that 18 second stoppage time to the Springboks, given that it is one of their players that caused the stoppage. In the 72nd minute and 46 seconds, there were Colby's yellow, the TMO review. The total TMO review took 1 minute 41 seconds, and I allocated the 1 minute 41 seconds to the Springboks, given that it's one of their players that were given a yellow card. In the 74th minute and 45 seconds, there were further New Zealand subs. The total stoppage time was 38 seconds, and I allocated the 38 seconds to the All Blacks because it was subs from their team. In the 79th minute and 37 seconds, there were injuries, both to New Zealand and South Africa players. The New Zealand instance to say their standing captain Savia, and the South African instance to Trevor Nyakane. The total stoppage time was 2 minutes and 7 seconds, and I did not allocate that 2 minutes to 7 seconds to any of the teams, given that there were injuries on both sides of the field. And then in the 79th minute and 50 seconds, there was a stoppage because of a scrum reset. Wayne Barnes indicated that New Zealand need to better time their push and keep their break foot forward. The total stoppage time to reset that scrum before the clock started running was 58 seconds, and I allocated the total 58 seconds to the All Blacks, given that they caused the scrum to have to be reset. So that's the total stoppages in the match, a total of 21 incidents of stoppages. The analysis reveals that South Africa were responsible for 9 minutes and 45 seconds of stoppage time compared to 9 minutes and 32 seconds by the All Blacks. If there ever was a match where pundits might argue that the Boks would benefit from slowing down the game, it was the final. However, I hope that this thoroughly debunks the urban myth that South Africa always slows down the game. It's clear that in this match, both teams were responsible for the stoppages, and South Africa's stoppages time were not way higher than that of the All Blacks. Not once did the water carriers run onto the field just for the sake of it. They only did so when Barnes stopped the clock for a TMA review or an injury, and the only stoppage that initially seemed a bit suspect was when Faf went down in the 75th minute to tie his shoelaces and Barnes stopped the clock. However, the entire stoppage lasted for only 18 seconds, the majority of which was taken up to reset the line-out and to set up the line-out, and Faf tying his shoelaces took at most 8 seconds of that time. The second table summarized the category for each stoppage in total and then per team. Overall, TMO stoppages and feedback accounted for 45% of the stoppage time, followed by 35% for treating injured players and 10% for stoppages that I could only categorize as others. With regards to the two teams, 55% of New Zealand stoppages are attributable to the TMO, followed by 22% for making substitutions. For the Springboks, the largest category is injuries at 55%, followed by 39% for TMO reviews. It is worth noting that all three injury stoppages attributable to South Africa were for valid injuries. The first occurred after Colby fell awkwardly in the 7th minute whilst chasing and trying to catch a high ball. The second took place in the 51st minute when Frans Malherbe had a lame arm after defending stoutly on the Bok try line. The last was in the 65th minute when Colby made a darting run, collided with Aaron Smith and had to get his leg heavily strapped. I hope this now dispels the theory that South Africa always slows down the game. The statistics from the final clearly indicate otherwise. Another debunked urban myth is that South Africa kicks much more than other teams. In the final, South Africa kicks 38 times out of hand compared to New Zealand's 34 times. More telling is the overall kick stats per game for the entire World Cup, indicating that New Zealand had the second highest number of kicks per game at 30.7 versus South Africa's 25 per game, which were the 10th highest at the World Cup. So clearly, the All Blacks kicked much more per game than South Africa, although in the final South Africa slightly kicked more than New Zealand. The last myth is that due to the way South Africa played, the total ball in play time is always on the low side. Ian Foster lamented the 27 minutes of ball in play time in the match between Ireland and South Africa, stating it was a very stop-start game, very physical, very combative. You saw a different spectacle tonight, and at some point the world has to decide which game it would rather watch. I hope he knows his answer, because in the final the total ball in play time amounted to 38 minutes and 24 seconds, making it the third highest in the entire World Cup. The total ball out of play time is indicated as an hour and 7 minutes, aligning with my earlier statistics on the stoppages, so 42 minutes of ball out of play time plus 24 minutes of stoppage time, equaling to ball out of play time, according to my calculations, of 1 hour and 6 minutes, which is very similar to the official ball out of play time. So another myth debunked that the Springbok game style decreases the ball in play time. Regarding the ruck speed, the speed of the ball out of the rucks, it was on average 5.05 seconds for New Zealand and 6.20 seconds for South Africa in the final. Interestingly, however, for South Africa, 8% of their rucks were cleared out in less than 2 seconds, whereas only 3% for the All Blacks were cleared out in less than 2 seconds. This indicates that when required, the Boks managed to speed up their game better than New Zealand, taking advantage of quick ruck ball opportunities. Yet another myth of the Springboks that has now been debunked. If you like the content of this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. It will be much appreciated. Thank you and good night.